Everybody finds a way to pick on themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And this gift here is not here to criticize. It's not for you to criticize.
Mm-hmm.
It's not for you to compare with somebody else or wish you was something else. This is your gift. You need to find out what lies in you to give to the universe.
Mm-hmm.
Can I ask you a question?
Please.
What would be your biggest frustration since you found out that you were losing your hearing?
Hello, you beautiful bluebirds, and welcome back to another episode of Deja Blue. I say this pretty much at the beginning of every podcast, but I really, really, really mean it with this one. I am sitting next to such an inspiration. I asked her before the podcast of how she'd like me to introduce her. She's like, you can just say the bitches here. And so I'm definitely going to do a little bit more than that. But she's definitely low maintenance and just so happy to be here too. And just so grateful that I am going to introduce Miss Kathy Buckley, who is a 5-time American Comedy Awards nominee as Best Stand-Up Female Comedian and the winner of countless other awards for her work. She is also an actress, a writer, a producer, an author, a humanitarian, and one of the country's leading motivational speakers. And with that all written down, also just from my personal experience, we got to jump on a call recently, connected by a beautiful sister, Irina, who has just so selflessly been like, these two people need to meet, and placed us on a Zoom call. And within 30 minutes, this woman had not only taken me to like tears of laughter, but also tears of resonance and just like a familiarity that you just left such a huge impact on my soul after that call. And you've just been in my field and in my thoughts since we last connected. And the fact that I get to sit down and have a conversation with you on the podcast and share with my audience is just truly, truly an honor. You have a mastery at going into some of the hardest and the darkest places and bring humor into it. And for me, that is what life is all about, is that we're all going to have struggles. And yet if we can actually see it through the lens of it's happening for us and bring some humor into it, then we can override one of the greatest diseases on the planet, which is over seriousness.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
So to the Bluebirds, I invite you to come on a journey with myself and Kathy Buckley.
Yay, blue. You're not blue.
I'm not blue. I'm actually pretty happy today, so I'm not blue.
Okay. Now, this is my honor. This is my privilege. It really is. I mean, I had no choice. Irina was threatening me. Yeah, and I was a little scared. So I thought, well, if I just show up, she'll leave me alone. Yeah. But I'm here.
You made it an hour and a half through LA traffic.
Oh yeah, it was crazy out there. And I get impatient sometimes, and I'm talking to the driver in front of me like he can hear me. Yeah. I'm hoping he's looking in the rearview mirror and lip reading me. You idiot! Do you know where the gas pedal is? Even though all the cars in front of him have stopped, I still want him to go.
Yeah, totally. I feel you. Welcome to LA traffic.
Yes.
Massively unpredictable and tests our level of patience.
Oh, yes.
Talking of patience, I feel like, we jammed out on a very obvious common thread that connects us in a very deep and profound way. And you shared with me on the call, and just also what I've watched of your content online, that you were born, was it about 80% deaf in both ears?
Well, we don't know. I was an RH factor baby. And then about 3 or 4 years old, I got spinal meningitis. Uh-huh. So, but I never spoke at that time. And so when I got the spinal meningitis, so we don't know if it was from birth, because I was supposed to have a blood transfusion in 24 hours. They had given me my last rites. The priest came in and everything. They didn't think the baby was going to live. But apparently I must have been deaf because I didn't listen. I just said, okay, last rites. Well, thank you very much. I got to go. I got to live a life.
That was Wow. So it was from the moment of birth. And when did you start speaking?
About 8.
Oh.
I was 8 years old when they found out my hearing loss. So a long time to go without language.
You were mute for 8 years.
Not really mute. I was making noises. I'm sure it wasn't pleasant because the look on the people's faces were like, what the hell is she saying? And that. But I was in school for mentally, back then we call it school for retardation. Today, politically correct. It's mentally challenged, which I still am, actually, if you think about it. I live in LA.
I live in LA. Totally.
And that, so about 8, when I got a hold of a teacher, they got a hold of a teacher for me to start speaking, to learn to speak.
Wow. Okay. And so at 8, you started learning to speak, and then you started to formulate your ability to communicate with other people, even though you've never heard your own voice?
Yeah.
And how does that training work?
It was a balloon. My teacher was really awesome. They had like balloon, popsicle stick, candles. We learned how to, it was just me and this other boy in the classroom with this one teacher, Miss Joan Daly. And she had a balloon and she would blow it up, tie it in a knot, and place it right here in her throat and chest. And then I put my hand on the balloon to feel her vibration of her voice. My job was to imitate it by feeling my own on my throat. So we would go back and forth. And she would say like apple. And I'd be like, apple. And she's like, not even close. So sometimes we work on one word for 2 weeks until I feel the vibration articulate it like her. I often wonder if she was from New York.
You sound like you're from New York.
That's what a lot of people always say. When I started coming into the hearing world, then everybody was like, oh my God, are you from New York? I'm like, no, man, these people must sound fabulous.
Yeah.
And then I had a one-woman show in New York, and so I was living in New York for about 3-4 months, and I'm like, these people are fabulous. They all have a hearing loss. I love New York.
Wow, that's so fascinating that you formed an accent that is very uncannily similar to a New York accent.
Oh yeah, and I pick up accents. It's the weirdest thing. Even my doctor couldn't understand how I do it. But the form of the mouth and the tongue and the lip movement, I could pick up certain people's accent. And it was the weirdest thing because I was down in Alabama and I was working with them. They were the sweetest people you ever did meet, and I just loved them. Everything was sweet. I swore I was going to get cavities by the time I left that place.
Also, with the amount of lip reading, I'm sure that you're doing.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. Everything. It's a Bible Belt, And so I had to keep it really clean, and it was killing me. I was getting heartburn from that.
Wow. So can you hear that I have an accent?
Yeah, I'm thinking, is it English?
English.
I should know that. I should know that, Blue, because my godchild's mother's from England. She's my closest heart. And I thought she had a speech impediment. We'll fix this for you, Jane.
Yeah.
No, I'm from England. I go, what's wrong with those people?
A few things. Wow. Okay. So you can even pick up accent and decipher just from being around somebody and is it feeling the frequency or is it the way that they articulate?
It's the way they articulate. The mouth movement is different in that. Actually, I don't suppose you would know who Ann Baxter is. She's an actress from the old days. Okay. She was in All About Eve. What was that with Charleston Heston? The big Moses and that. Well, she had an assistant named Dottie, and Dottie was from England, and Dottie was about 70-something years old. I did think she had a speech impediment. I thought there was something wrong with her. So Dottie was trying to correct my speech impediment, and I'm trying to help her with hers. And she always called me Buckley. She said, Buckley, don't be talking like that. That's not a lady. And I said, who said I had a lady? I was more bald than half of the men I know. So yeah, I don't have to be a lady, But she would, so I picked up her accent and we just had so much fun, And I am English and Italian.
I'm English and Italian.
Are you really?
Yeah.
Oh my God, look at these two deafies, English and Italian. Hey, you guys should be having a blast out there. This is going to be the best day of your life.
Definitely. Homecoming. Oh, wow. Okay. So how long did it take you to, from being introduced to the balloon to actually being able to have full-blown conversations and that you were fully articulating yourself without limitation?
I can't tell you how long. I really wouldn't know because in my mind I was doing okay, but the facial expressions around me I wasn't. So it was always this feeling of rejection from facial expressions. The facial expression is usually a question mark to me, and it's like, you know, they're looking at me, and I'm like, what do you want from me in my mind? So what I've done when I got older, like a teenager and stuff, I wanted to be in this world. There were no other deaf people in my world when I was growing up. I was put in a public school after I was done with Miss Joan Daly. And so I was just lost. But I had a best friend. Her name was Lisa. And it's funny because Lisa and I both hit 6 foot tall in 6th grade. Lisa's black. I'm a little pale. And we were both joined together because we were both being rejected from society over something we didn't have control over. Me, my speech and language and hearing, and the color of her skin. But at that time, between the two of us, there was no challenge. There was total acceptance. But when I was growing up, my hearing loss was never discussed. It's when I became more of an adult and I met Jane, who's from England, and I said, look, whenever I say a word wrong, would you please correct me? It wants me.
Yeah.
And would you please correct me because I don't know I'm saying it wrong. So I started asking people, you know, my friends, and I would say, look, if I say the word wrong, let me know. Because I noticed that when a joke didn't work, I found out later on I wasn't saying the word right. And so it was like assistant was one of them. And so my friend was telling me, Sue, she was telling me, she goes, Kathy, when you say assistant, you know, so she helped me with my S's and stuff. So I depended on friends. Now, the hard part about depending on an English woman, they got no problem telling you how to do it. I mean, it got to the point where she said, I'm not even saying I right. I go, it's an I, it's one letter. Give me a break, you know. But she was right there with me on it. And so now I have an English accent with a speech impediment. But you know what? You should always, people have a hard time asking for help when they're in a difficult time in their life. But I had the determination of wanting to be a part of this world at my best self possible. And I couldn't do it without asking people for help.
Did you ever go through times where you didn't want to be in this world and you didn't?
Oh, God, yes. I tried to commit suicide 5 different times.
Really?
Yeah, there are going to be some things I'm not going to be successful at. And there's not a day that goes by where I don't thank God for letting me fail at least 5 different times. I have no dreams, no goals, no ambition. I wasn't taught to have them. There wasn't that support for me growing up. And I think the suicide tendencies were more because I was lost between being molested in my own home, between not catching on in school, not understanding my environment, why are people mean to me. The language, when you don't have language, you don't have a way to express yourself. And I didn't grow up with people saying, ask questions. I would never ask questions. I wasn't taught to ask questions. But questions is where you get information from. Question is where you move forward to learn. But I wasn't taught that. So I was very, very lost through my childhood, through high school. And even in my 20s, I was just lost, not knowing what's going to happen to me. And I never did understand the hearing loss. I just didn't get it. Nobody sat down And this is one of the things, you know, I have my nonprofit for No Limit. And the person who's the founder came to my one-woman show. And when my audiologist, when I was 34 years old, they showed me my audiogram. Mm-hmm. It was the first time they took something invisible and made it visible. Mm-hmm. So I could see the lines and understanding where I should be compared to where I am. Mm-hmm. And so that gave me an understanding what was going on. So now, whenever I work with kids with hearing loss, I explain to the parents the importance of having them understand, make something invisible visible. Mm. A hearing loss is invisible. Mm-hmm. You know, somebody can yell at you to do. I've gotten so many times in the airport, ma'am, 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 and I just keep walking until somebody touches me, and I turn around, and then oh, hi, what can I do for you? So it's an invisible thing. You could see somebody's arms missing or their legs missing, but you can't see sounds missing. Mm-hmm.
Wow. Yeah, I really, really relate to everything that you're saying. So from where you have gone through with not wanting to be here, feeling so disconnected, feeling confused, and having no guidance or even a conversation around this piece, to then standing on stages and addressing huge crowds of people and bringing humor into these spaces, there's a huge, significant quantum shift. What was the journey like for you to not only claim that this was part of your gift, but also share it in a way that was so public?
Well, I didn't choose to be a comedian. You know, I thought wasn't it. I was a massage exercise therapist, and my clients, I found that laughter was my best way of getting in there and work their muscles. Mm-hmm. And so I went ahead and 3 of my clients gave me an newspaper article called Stand Up Comic, Take a Stand. It was to help raise money for children with cerebral palsy. Mm. I love kids. Mm-hmm. It's my everything. I missed out on a childhood. I want to make sure that every kid I meet gets one. Mm-hmm. So it was a comedy contest. Well, I know nothing about comedy. Mm-hmm. Deaf humor and hearing humor are very, very different. In the deaf humor, you would tell the punchline and then the lead up. Mm-hmm. And it's the reverse in the hearing world. So I had to study for 2 weeks what to do for stand-up. I wanted to help the kids. Well, one of my clients was Jerry Jewell. Jerry Jewell has cerebral palsy. She was the first person with a disability ever to land a sitcom called Facts of Life. She played cousin Jerry. And she was my client. And when she gets on the table, because of the CP, she wiggles all over the place. And I had to sit on her butt to work on her back. And I honestly believe in my naive mind that if we could raise enough money, we can find a cure for Jerry, and then she could just relax on my table. Well, Jerry helped me with a few material because she was a comedian. And I went up on stage that first night, drove everybody quick. Did they call me yet? Did they call me yet? I didn't know if I would hear them call my name. So when I finally got up on stage, I stood in front of 250 people. I couldn't hear the laughter. I'd play off people's faces. And if I saw a face I didn't like, I'd move on to another face. And then I just kept going for it, you know. And I could feel the vibration from the stage. And I won. I won that night. Mm. I knew nothing about comedy. People came up, you killed. Oh, gosh, who? He goes, you brought the house down. I go, I didn't touch anything. I'm like, this is a very violent profession. And I just went with it. And then they came up to me and they said, well, you have to go to the semifinals. If you win tonight, you go to the semifinals. Now, I didn't even know what a semifinal was. But I ended up placing 4th out of 80 comedians who were in the business from 3 to 10 years. And I ended up with a career. My passion was to help the kids, and I ended up with a career. So you want to make God laugh? Tell him your plans.
Wow. And for you, like, you're talking about feeling vibration and feeling the vibration of the stage, feeling the vibration of the audience. What is, if you were to describe your relationship to the realm of feeling, and how it's been, well, I guess it's difficult to say how it's been enhanced because you were born with it. But would you say that there is a way that you digest reality that's different than how you would presume others to digest reality?
I do see it differently. And it's part of it is from the Jeep accident when I died and saw life after death. So that gave me a sense of knowing I'm not alone. A sense of knowing that this place is temporary, that this place has many blessings to be given to us, but we get so caught up in things we really don't need in our lives that we just keep going for our wants instead of having the gratitude that our needs are already taken care of. We get so caught up going 20 miles, 50 miles an hour. Not many people live in the present. And the present, being in that moment, is where all the gifts that you have. My having to do the comedy contest and ending up with a career was amazing. Now, Jerry got me involved in speaking because they didn't have enough people with disabilities doing what they call windmill. Windmill is for the ADA law, Americans with Disabilities Act. And this was supposed to go and educate corporations about hiring people with disabilities into the workforce. Well, Windmill happens to be like a 12-inch book. I never got an education for reading well. And I was supposed to tell people about the windmill and there's a pie chart and I got that little laser pen and that was the best thing in the world, you know. And but I really had no idea what was going on in this book. So I found myself when I was speaking in front of corporations, I was swearing a lot because I was nervous. And I didn't know what, you know, I'm pointing at the pie chart. I don't know if it's apple or peach and I don't know where, but I just like that laser. And I'm just going for it. Well, they got a lot of complaints because I was swearing. But you got to know, I can enunciate my swear words like nobody's business. Just had no speech impediment there. So what ended up happening is that I got called into the office and they said, look, we're giving you one more shot at this speaking thing. And he says, and you can't swear. And I'm like, okay. So I'm standing in front of I think it was 300 and some people at this one company. The pie chart is over here, the book is over here, and I'm nervous, you know, and I'm like, you can't swear. I know. And all of a sudden, I looked at the audience and I thought, who knows more about living with a disability than me? And so I started sharing my stories and some of the people that I've met along the way with disabilities. And it's the fact what I was doing was erasing the disability on these people and myself and showing the ability and the capabilities of these people, you know? And it was amazing to watch the transformation. I mean, I remember my friend, Rich Pimentel, he was talking about a company asked for somebody who could do filing. So they sent him a little person. And the company called back and they go, he says, this person's little. She's not going to get she's only going to get she can't do the file. And Richard told them, you know, she's only going to file from M to Z. And you can't get a step ladder for the person. But people panic when people with disabilities come into the environment because they either become over empathetic or they become fearful. And all you got to do is ask the person what their needs are. They know. And so I ended up that day, got praise. And so then I started sharing my story. Just started being true to who I am and what I went through. It's not a secret. None of us have a secret. Everyone in this world has somebody else that's going through the same thing you're going through. It may not be the same story, but it's the same emotion. So we're not alone. And I don't know what the question was, but it was fun rambling on.
I like your rambles. This is what we're here for. We're living for Kathy Buckley's ramble. I really like also what you said, you know, we're not alone, because I felt that was a huge part of my conversation with you via Zoom was for a moment in my life, I didn't feel alone in what I was experiencing. And your ability to laugh at it while also sharing me some very like context for what I was experiencing. Like you said, okay, Blue, when you talk to me, I don't want you to give me the death nod. And I'm like, what's the death nod? And you're like, well, you know, when someone said something and you're like, but you've not heard at all what they've said. I was like, I do the death nod all the time. I just didn't have context for it. I didn't have a name for it. It was just something that I've done because it's just so much easier to be like, than to be like, hey, listen, you know, I'm 70% deaf and this is my experience and this is how you can support me. And then they talk really loudly and it's like, oh, no, that's not
exactly. Then you're lip reading cavities in their mouths. And like, oh, that's nice. Yeah. Have you seen a dentist?
Exactly. So it was like, I the deaf nod, you even just gave it context. And even in these tiny things that seem like such an off-the-cuff comment, potentially, for me, is a game changer because from that point forward, I'm going, okay, no more deaf nodding for anybody, but actually birth a deeper level of connection and intimacy beyond this superficial,
Well, you know why I brought it up to you? It's because I didn't want you to miss anything. And the only person that can make you miss something is you. Mm-hmm. Because you don't want to inconvenience the other person by asking them to repeat themselves.
Yeah.
And I used to be that way. It was like, but then I realized I totally got the wrong information. I end up hurting somebody or I hurt myself or whatever have you. So communication is about connection. Mm-hmm. And to give a deaf nod is really insulting not only the person, but you too. Mm-hmm. And you don't deserve to go through life missing out on something that might be very important that's being said to you. Mm-hmm. So don't cheat yourself. Just ask them to repeat it. Mm-hmm. And then I have actually told people, I say, look, could you please repeat that? Okay, I didn't get all of it, but repeat it again. And if they get frustrated with me, then that's okay. But then I just said, it's all right. Look, if you're frustrated with me, I understand. You want to write it down, whatever it is. Is it important? Because if it's not important, then I don't need it. Mm-hmm. And I always believe that my hearing loss is a gift because it's like I don't have to listen to half of the BS that's down here because a lot of it is BS. Mm-hmm. I want the compassion. I want the empathy of people. I want the heart of people. Mm-hmm. I don't want the BS. Mm-hmm. So I really believe that whatever I don't get, it wasn't mine to have in the first place. Mm-hmm. So I'm not going to frustrate myself over it, and I'm not going to frustrate somebody else. If they get frustrated, we can cut the conversation short. Mm-hmm. I got one shot at this gift called life. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to waste it on stupidity or ignorance, you know? So don't cheat yourself out of anything just because you think you're helping somebody else get off the hook. Mm-hmm. Don't let yourself off the hook.
This is really important medicine for me to hear. Because I even just recently I went to Mexico, and then since the pandemic started, because of the masks, I'm sure you can.
Oh, I got a whole story for that one.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, actually, I'd love to hear it if you want to share the story with your relationship with the masks.
It's the only relationship I have.
Yeah.
It's safe test. Safe test. It's just a mask. I went to get my shot, my vaccine shot that I didn't want to have because I want to go back to Ohio and see my mom, and they won't let me in to see my mom unless I'm vaccinated. So I went and got my shot, and when I got there, I forgot I haven't been out of the house. Mm-hmm. I literally been in my house this whole year. So I went there and I forgot everybody's wearing a mask. I felt like that little girl that had been cast aside. I don't see anybody's lips and I'm nervous. And I start getting really nervous. And there's 3 lines and people are like waving their hand or they're yelling. I don't know if there's any overhead announcement. I know nothing. So there's 3 lines. So I snuck into one line, praying that it wasn't going to be the penis enlargement line. But then again, I could have had that too. See, I'm not thinking too clearly because I was nervous. So I get up to the counter and they have to ask me questions. So I'm like, I'm sorry, I can't answer your questions. I can't hear you. Is there anybody on your staff that's willing to remove their mask? Well, this cute little Latino girl comes up with the most precious little face. She removes her mask. She goes, hi, my name is Jay. I go, Jade? She says, no, Jay. I said, Jad? She goes, no. And I said, apparently my lip reading's not that good today. I must be really shocked. She goes, no, it's just the letter J. I go, how long was your mother in labor for that she just threw a letter at you? Well, we got along really good. And what she did that was really precious is that she went to the other nurses and she asked which nurse would be willing to remove their mask. So I didn't have to go and repeat myself again. I'm sorry, but I'm hard of hearing, blah, blah, blah. This nurse was sitting there and she's talking to me and she gives me the shot. And I go, when are you going to give me the shot? She goes, I already did. I go, that was it? She goes, yeah, that's it. And I go, that's the last conversation I had with my boyfriend. So I had I had fun with it, you know? But I was nervous. But what I do now with myself, instead of getting frustrated, because some people won't remove their masks and stuff, so I just pretend like maybe they're missing a tooth. Or maybe they have crooked lips. Or maybe their nose is broken and it's whole. So I entertain myself. Who they would look like if they take the mask off. You know? And the only problem I have now, because all you see is eyeballs, so if all you see is eyebrows going up and down, but if they have Botox, I'm screwed. So it's mask land. It'll be coming off soon.
Yeah, I really, really relate to your experience at the doctor's office. Just before I went to Mexico, I had to go and get the nasal swab for the COVID test. And the plastic shield.
Yes.
And then the mask. And then like, and instantly just my whole body just like shrinks. I feel like, my heart go hot and uncomfortable, and I do feel like an 8-year-old girl that's like lost her mum and doesn't really know where to go or doesn't have a place in it, and no one really understands, and feeling very alone. And in that moment, just burst into tears in the doctor's office, like a little kid, and just feeling like very scared that the next day I was about to travel for the first time on my own since the pandemic had started, with everybody wearing masks, asking very important questions like, do you have explosives in your bag?
Yeah.
I'm like, def nod. You know?
No, don't def nod the explosive.
Yeah, exactly.
There we go. You're not going to Mexico.
Yeah, exactly. Like one def nod could get me in jail.
I
right?
know,
like,
really.
It's a really like rocky path to walk, and to have the courage to just and what you said on the Zoom call as well. Listen, in 30 minutes, this woman like laid it down. A lot of beautiful knowledge was gifted to me in that call, around welcome people into your world. Don't be welcome into everybody else's, or don't go into everybody else's world, because it's exhausting and it's very taxing and it's very loud in the mind. And something that I'm learning is that the louder I am in here, the more my deafness is a deafness, like really just blocked out from the world. The quieter my mind is, the more I'm reading people for so much more than just this.
Yes.
And it's like their emotions and their thoughts and their feelings and their confidence and what they're carrying. And like, there's so much information. But when I'm resisting, or like I can't hear it, and I create a deafness in my own mind and a disconnect from what's happening in the outside world.
That's why it's important for you to say, could you please remove your mask?
Mm-hmm.
I'm hard of hearing. If you're not comfortable with it, then either write it down, but take care of yourself. No one's going to take care of you. No one's going to be, oh, she's deaf, yell at her. You know, it's not going to happen that way. Mm-hmm. You have a hearing loss, but you are much more than a hearing loss. Mm-hmm. You have a heart, you have passion, you have compassion, you have greatness in you. Mm-hmm. the quietness is nothing more than an opportunity to put you in the moment. Mm-hmm. But when you're with people, let them know. Hey, look, I'm sorry. This is what I do. I always touch them gently, and I said, look, I'm hard of hearing. I really want to know what you have to say. Mm-hmm. And then they would be overcompensating sometimes. And I said, look, I can read your lips. I don't need to see your teeth or the back of your tongue. And what's with that punching bag back there anyway? What do you do with that? It's just people will be there if you touch them. Mm-hmm. I find that touching somebody automatically gives them the attention, mm-hmm. Not only that, but I also realized, you ever notice when people go and they say, hey, how you doing? They say, fine. Mm-hmm. They always just say fine. Yeah. And I don't even know what fine means. But if you touch them and say, how you doing today? They're not going to say fine. They're going to tell you how they honestly feel. Mm-hmm. It's human contact. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, if you don't want to know how they're feeling, just slap them upside the head and move on.
And that's also its own right, if human contact. Just slightly different. I did at the airport, when it was fine all the way up until Mexico City. And all the signs are in Spanish, and there's hundreds of people because it's spring break. And everyone's speaking Spanish and rushing around. I don't know what direction I'm supposed to be going in. I can't read the things that I have, as I don't read Spanish. And this man comes up to me and showing me his badge and is trying to take my suitcase off of me, speaking in Spanish with his mask on. I have no idea what's going on. I'm clinging to my bag and he's trying to yank it from me. And I'm like, I'm hard of hearing. And he got so frustrated at me and was like, ugh, and just walked off. And I'm standing there in Mexico City and I'm like, okay, you're okay. They call in my angels. And I called in an angel. I was like, I'm just calling in an angel that can guide me to where I need to go without having to have a breakdown around it. And this woman just shows up out of nowhere. And she's like, can I help you? And she has the badge on. And I was like, I'm hard of hearing. I'm a little overwhelmed. I'm having a hard time understanding where I'm supposed to go. I don't speak Spanish. And so she starts like signing. I don't speak sign yet, but she is kind of like, you want to go over here at gate number 7. And she was communicating with me, and she sat with me, and she didn't even really speak English, but we communicated better than my whole trip was right after I just said, this is where I'm at. This is my experience. I'm really overwhelmed. And angels, people really do want to help.
Oh, yeah.
I've just learned that I need to tell myself that I'm worthy of receiving help.
Yeah.
To let people know this is my experience, as opposed to thinking I've got to do it all by myself and then being frustrated that no one can meet me in that realm. And so this is just something that you showing up in being the embodiment of the ownership of where you're at has allowed me, after we spoke, to own and claim it in a deeper way so that the outside world can reflect my inner conversation that I'm having with myself.
Exactly.
I'm curious.
It's the only way you're going to take something invisible and make it visible. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You're curious about what, honey?
Because I believe, and Albert Einstein talks about, that energy can't be created nor destroyed, only changed in form. So if you were born with your energy not going towards picking up necessarily on the sense of hearing, it's got to go somewhere else. It's not that you have less energy than anybody else. It's just that you have energy redirected in different places, which actually creates a profound gift. Do you find that you're very empathic towards other people? Like, you can feel what's going on? Yeah. And how does that show up in your reality through the lens of it being a gift?
It's funny because I always seem to figure out, I can meet certain people. I know who to walk away from, who not to. People that I can embrace. I also see things that some people may not see. Like, I can feel like, one time I was in a doctor's office and the receptionist was there. delightful little girl, just delightful. And I looked at her and I said, I'm going to tell you something. You do what you want with it. But I know you miss your grandmother very much. But she's with you, but she's asking for you to step out of your way. You've got your stuff stuck somewhere. So, and she just started bawling because she didn't want to be where she was. She wanted to do something else. People get caught up in where they think they're supposed to be and not where they want to be. And so I see things, I can read things from people sometimes. Not always right, but I seem to see, I listen more. You know, hearing people here, I listen. I listen to the facial expression, I listen to the heartbeat, I listen to the body language, I listen to different things, because sometimes what you say and what your body says are two different things. Because a lot of times people can't put their emotions into words. So I get to see more and focus on people's needs, and I can help provide some of those needs. You know, like right now, working with my kids in my school, the parents, they come to us helpless and fearful because they're low income, they're not going to be able to afford services for their kids. But I could tell who needs what so that they will have the confidence to continue to provide the services for their kids. And so it's just intuitive. I listen to my intuitive more than most people do. A lot of people just jump into things. I kind of go, is that right? Maybe stop and think more, I guess. But I love people. People have always been my passion. You know, I mean, good or bad. I'm so interested in why people do what they do. You know, and how can they always be their worst enemy? I mean, I know I can be. I know I've been, but I'm not going to neglect the gift that's been given in me that is supposed to be given to others.
It feels like actually you hear better than most people.
On some levels, I think so.
It feels that way.
Yeah, on some levels, I believe so.
And sometimes I think that because, I mean, I think the difference between your and my experience, and we talked about this on the call as well, of how actually we're both above average on our low tones and deaf on our high tones.
Yeah.
And so if, like, for example, sitting on the street at a restaurant and a motorcycle goes by,
it's annoying.
So jarring.
Yeah.
But then a female voice in a restaurant.
Annoying.
Completely gone.
I know.
Can't hear anything.
What would you like to have?
Yeah.
Not you.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah.
You know,
totally.
it's like, oh gosh, here. Just point to the menu.
Yeah. Exactly. And so we actually experienced very similar. I mean, it's there's a lot of synchronicities with us both being Italian and English.
Oh, yeah.
And having a very similar experience of the range of our hearing. However, the difference is that you were born with it. And mine just started about 5 years ago. And so you said it's categorized or it's labeled as something where it's like speaking deaf and
deaf speak.
Deaf speak.
See, there's deaf signing, which is ASL, and they have a culture, which is over here. Then you have your hearing world, and then you have us in the middle. So it's always been black and white. We're in the gray area. See, a deaf person who signs have no problem letting somebody know that they're smacking, they'll tell you, they'll tell you. But the hearing world will see me as deaf because I wear hearing devices and have a speech impediment. But deaf people, ASL deaf, see me as hearing because I use my voice. So it's just always trying to educate the hearing, trying to fit in the hearing world. So it was always a struggle for me. So that's why I decided to do my own world. You know, I mean, my world is awesome. You people are screwed up, you know. I want nothing but love in my world. I want nothing but acceptance in my world. I want no judgment, no labeling. I just want people to be who they are in the best form that they know.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel like because of this, because of your hearing, you have a bigger bandwidth of compassion for other people?
I'm going to say that I think I came into the world with some of that because my mom, who I love dearly, but she's one of the most negative personality you ever encounter. Never happy, always miserable, just that personality type. And she always used to tell me, how do you love so much? What's wrong with you? Because she always thought that my loveness was a weakness, that I would forgive somebody who bullied me or that hurt me. And it's just like, well, they all have a story. Everybody has a story. I don't want to be a victim of somebody else's ignorance or stupidity. I just want to live my life. So, and my uncle, Christopher, told my mom, something's wrong with her. She goes, why? What do you mean? She goes, she loves too much. Something's wrong with her, you know. But I think part of the quiet world, and plus when I was in the school for the mentally challenged, we didn't focus on what we couldn't do. We focused on what we could do. Everybody had a different disability. Some had missing limbs, some was blind, you know, we all had so we didn't care. It wasn't about the value of words and communication, but what our hearts had to say. And we had a way of expressing, like you were saying earlier, how that lovely lady came and helped you in Mexico. So it's all about, so I think that my passion for people was always watching people, wanting to be like them, you know, or wanting to be a part of their world. I mean, all my dinner tables, all my meals of my family, I had no idea who these people were. There was no connection. There was just no connection. Miss Joan Daly, my teacher, she was my first person I connected with, the one who taught me how to talk. And that was amazing. And she always had this sparkle in her eyes and a smile on her face. And she was so proud of me that I was eager to learn to speak. And so with that beautiful face in my eyes, encouraging me was a gift. It's one of the reasons why I have one of the utmost respect for teachers. They do not understand the impact that they can make on a child for the rest of their lives.
It makes me think about how when it takes one person to see somebody that has potentially a labeled disability and show up for them in a place of service and support, how it can completely change the trajectory of that individual's life.
Yeah.
And how empathy is so important moving forward because, you know, full circle, everybody on the planet is going through something that we know nothing about.
Oh, yeah.
And
everybody. Like I said earlier, it could be cellulite, you know. I mean, everybody finds a way to pick on themselves. And this gift here is not here to criticize. It's not for you to criticize. It's not for you to compare with somebody else or wish you were something else. This is your gift. You need to find out what lies in you to give to the universe. Can I ask you a question?
please.
What would be your biggest frustration since you found out that you were losing your hearing?
I think what's been challenging is that it's not acceptance and then it's just, I've accepted it. It's needing to accept it in every moment of every day, of every scenario, of every conversation, of every new connection, of every phone call. It's like, I can accept it in one moment and then another moment comes and I need to go through that level of acceptance again, because every scenario is different depending on the background noise and depending on how many people are in the conversation, or if it's on speakerphone or is it to my ear. And so it's been the greatest frustration to want to hear this person share and to feel physically like there's something outside of me that is stopping me from getting what it is that I want, which is human connection. And simultaneously, there's another side of the coin of that, where it's become a profound gift because when I have learned to surrender to this over and over and over and over again, small things like a parking ticket, I'm like, because my muscle of surrender has gotten so strong that now when things go wrong, quote unquote, my softening has happened where the gift keeps presenting itself as to why it's happened. And so from the outside, if people don't know about my hearing, it's very easy to look at my life and be like, wow, she's just been given everything and she's so blessed. I think that it's a byproduct of learning to surrender to so many small things, because of this, surrendering to this has been such a great thing that now life's little hiccups are beautiful.
You know, I relate to what you're saying completely. I mean, this pandemic has been a blessing to me because I haven't had to lip read anybody. I haven't had to do business phone calls. It's been great for me. And I've enjoyed the solitude. But I understand when you go out into the world, if you're in a restaurant or background noise or all of that, it's that little feeling of rejection. Like I'm not fitting, I don't belong. And I have to change my way of thinking when I get to that place because it hurts. It hurts a lot. It just feels like that. You just like, damn, I don't fit. I'm not a part of this puzzle. I'm not in this picture. And I understand that completely. And I do get frustrated. Oh, yeah, get frustrated. But if I'm with the right people, they will understand. The worst thing you can do to a person with a hearing loss is when you say, I'm sorry, what did they say? I'll tell you later. Because you know you're not going to get it later. Yeah. You've just been cast out. Yeah. And I have to say to myself, when I get that, because I do it immediately, the first instant is, you know. But the adult in me says, well, apparently it's not important, so I'm not going to let it bother me. I have to keep reassuring myself. And it is hard. It's hard when you feel like you've been cast out. You don't want to feel it, but it is true. I mean, you know, if I was trying to pick up groceries and I only had one arm, somebody would come and help me because they can see I only have one arm trying to pick up this bag. Somebody would help me. But people don't know to come and help us if we're not hearing something unless we have to physically tell them.
I really relate to that. Yeah. I'll tell you later. It feels like my heart sinks to my stomach, and it does. It feels like 1 degree. All of a sudden, we're all on the same page, and then I'll tell you later, it goes, and then we start like this, and I'm like, bye. As I literally feel myself become very lonely in a room full of people.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm like, but you won't tell me later. And now I have no idea what you guys are talking about. Everyone's laughing. I'm the only one sitting there not laughing because I don't know what everyone's laughing about. And it's like, it feeds this fear that is a deep, like, little wound in my little girl, is the fear of being rejected. And it taps on that. It's like, I'm like, oh, and it comes forward. And there's been so many times where I've wanted to cry, but I don't want to cry in a room full of people that have no context for why I'm even tearing when everyone's laughing.
Oh, believe me, I know that feeling. It's just this constant being, okay, I'm not part of this. And that, and besides, nobody's going to have better jokes than me, so let them laugh. You know, but no, I got that feeling of, my girlfriend used to get really mad at me when we would go out to parties when I was younger, because she would always find me sitting in a corner somewhere. And I just like to observe. I just got to the point where I'm going to observe, because 9 times out of 10, like when I go on the road and the companies want to take me out to dinner, it's always a dark restaurant with 1 candle and 10 people at the table. And I'm not a part of the conversation. I don't know what's going on. So I've gotten to the point where I said, look, if you want to take me out to dinner, it'll just be no more than 4 people. And at least 2 candles. But she used to get mad at me. You're such a party pooper. You're such a party. Nobody understands how difficult it is to be in a room full of people, carry a conversation with music. This is the thing I never understood with hearing people. There's always music everywhere. There's music in the elevator, the gynecologist's office. Are we going to dance or are we going to do the examination?
Or a bit of both.
I know, probably. It's just all over the place. It's like, I don't know what it is with hearing people having to have, I guess it stimulates their brain. I don't know what it's doing to them, but it's that constant noise. And so when you're at a party and at a big dinner party or just a gathering, I'm always cautious. And you know who you'll find me with? If there's kids around, I go play with the kids.
Same. Or the animals.
Yeah, the kids are the animals. Because you know what? I don't have a heavy conversation here. Yeah. I don't have to worry about misinterpreting. In the board meetings at my school, it's so funny. I think I know what they're talking about because there's a long table with everybody sitting there. And then they go, Kathy, what do you think? And then I'll tell them what I think. And then I have 12 people doing this. Like, what happened here? And then it's like, and then I look at them and I go, so what were you talking about? Because I had a fabulous conversation going on in my head. So what were we on? So now I have to learn to find the humor in it because it's the only way I can make them feel comfortable and for me to feel comfortable because I know I misinterpret. I don't trust what I hear. Mm-hmm. That's the hard part about my life is that I don't trust what I'm hearing. Yeah. So it's harder for me to be involved in case I know I'm going to misinterpret. I know one thing. I am not qualified to gossip. Don't gossip. You'll get yourself in a lot of trouble, Blue. But I can tell you one thing. Whatever the story is, I can multiply it into a fabulous story.
A lot of my friends have shared the reflection that every time I've misinterpreted it, I've made the story 1,000 times better.
Yeah,
like it's got way more flavor, imagination.
Yes, it's great.
And usually also sometimes has like a sexual connotation to it. They're like, well, it says a lot about where you're at in your head right now.
I wish it happened that way.
Exactly. Exactly. Awesome. Wow. It's so beautiful to be in the relation with you of just weaving this reality with the cards that we've been dealt. Something, I don't know if I told you this. I think I did maybe on the call. My brother and I were both diagnosed with it at the same time. And my brother's a professional poker player. So he's gone into the realm of like reading people when they pull the card and they got the best poker face in the world. But we're picking up on so much more than just the words.
He's winning. He's winning.
Yeah, he's making good money. Just sitting at these poker tables and reading people. He's doing good. And so we've been dealt these specific cards and this is how we're just choosing to run with it. And this level of relatability is like a breath of fresh air for me because for what you've created with your life is so inspiring and I relate so deeply to the path that you've chosen as a public speaker, as a motivational speaker, as an author, as a philanthropist and a humanitarian. And it just feels like just by you being alive and just living your life, you have, and me even knowing that you exist. Thank you, Irina, so much for this connection.
Yeah, it's your fault.
For all this magic. It's given me a deeper level of permission to not create any story that what I have is a limitation, but yeah, an invitation and a catalyst. I'm curious, you talk about your nonprofit and the school. You have a school called No Limits for Deaf Children. Mm-hmm. And I'd love for you to share a little bit more about that.
It's been a blessing. As a matter of fact, 25 years this coming Saturday, we are now, No Limits is now a national holiday. And so for 25 years, we've been serving low-income families for deaf and hard of hearing children. Because it can cost anywhere from $75 to $150 an hour just for speech therapy. And there's no way these families can afford to provide that service for their children. We started out, Michelle Christie, who is the founder, she started out, well, what happened was I was traveling all over the world when I was doing my comedy, and I was looking for really good educational programming for children with hearing loss. Because a lot of them get mainstream into public schools, and they get passed on, and they miss their education like I did. So Michelle, I went all over the world, couldn't find the one that really made me go, I want to have this. So my last school I went to was in my backyard, Los Angeles, called Echo Horizon. And Michelle was a speech therapist there. And I fell in love with her because she was passionate and compassionate. And she found a way to get around these kids. But they didn't have, like John was our first baby, and he had no friends in school. So she created a theater group for the kids. So all children with hearing loss with spoken language came together, and it was so cute. They were like monkeys picking fleas off of each other, checking each other's hearing devices. You know, like, oh, wow, what's this, right? You know? And it was about building confidence and self-esteem and having a community for these kids. Well, LA Unified School District was not giving enough speech and language classes to kids with hearing loss in the public schools. 15 minutes a week in a group of kids, which means nobody's going to pick up a language. Mm-hmm. So we created the after-school program. And with that, we have the kids coming to us after school. Some of these parents take 3 buses to get there. They have to bring their siblings. So over the years, what we do is we work with kids from birth to 18. We're the only program that have school-age kids, because most of the time it's from birth to 5. And then the kids are on their own and they get lost. So we have a class every Saturday with the parents where they have to learn how to be advocates, know the IEPs. They know how to fight for their kids' rights because they're low income, and people will look at low income people like they're less than. Mm-hmm. So we make sure they have all their information to be advocates. We created a program in our school for the siblings who have to come tag along, so that they have tutors and computer room so that they can be keeping up on their education. So we work with literacy, STEM. We do everything with the kids to keep them caught up with their peers. And we have families that come in, like Ben and his mom came from Korea. And they leave the rest of the family back home, but they come to our program. Ben was a valedictorian for his school. He just had his first interview for Stanford. Oh. And it was amazing. He's so smart. He intimidates me. But he has to be smart because he gets my jokes, you know, so he's really smart. And then we have, I'll never forget Kayla. We had a science fair, and there was this robot that would run on the table. And she would look at it, and she would laugh. She would laugh, and her belly would laugh. And I go, what's the matter, baby? She said, I broke. She thought the sound of laughter, she broke herself. Oh. So we had to explain what laughter was, because she was 5 years old. She never laughed. Oh. And the coolest part is the parents, because they come in feeling so helpless and so lost. And when they hear their kid say mom for the first time, or dad, or I love you, or have a conversation, it's the first time they get to connect with their child. And that joy, and not only that, but the parents have a community. A lot of times when parents have a child with a disability, a lot of their friends drop out of the circle because they don't know how to handle it. And a lot of times, I hate to say it, there's a divorce because one of the parents can't handle the situation. Mm-hmm. So, but our kids are just amazing. I mean, we had a mom from the Philippines who brought Ivy over and left their family at home. And Ivy now is a teacher to deaf. We have 100% rate that all of our kids graduate from high school and go on to college. Mm. So we really work. Michelle's big on the education. I'm big on a sense of humor, you know, and with all about self-esteem and confidence. And now we've worked with people in Japan. We've worked with people in Africa, India, and we do every week Vietnam virtual. So the cool thing about the pandemic is that this new world of virtual, that you can help people across the globe, you know. So we're doing that. We're just trying. There's not enough resources for parents with children with hearing loss, and most deaf kids are born to hearing parents. So they want to fit them with cochlear implants so their child can have spoken language. So our job is to help the children brain, because the brain has to exercise the sound.
Mm-hmm.
So our job is to train the brain. So we're like a little gym for their brain, for sound. And we have to teach them how to breathe, because they breathe shallow, because they don't use their voice much. So they have to teach them how to breathe to get the air out to enunciate the words. So it's a big process. And it's just a blessing to watch. Our kids come to us. A child is born at 5 years old. They have a vocabulary of 5,000 words. My kids at 5 have none. Mm-hmm. So we have to get them caught up to their peers.
Wow.
And it's just amazing to watch this success. I have one little girl, Lana. Oh my God. She came to us nothing. Now she's 16 and she's teaching herself Chinese. I told her, just get the egg roll and move on. But she didn't.
Oh, wow.
And a lot of our kids are bilingual because their families have different languages.
Wow.
So it's amazing to watch the progress. You have to come to the school when we finally get out of this pandemic.
Is it closed during the pandemic right now?
No, everything's virtual.
It's all virtual.
Yeah, when the pandemic hit, what we didn't know, that, the schools turned on to the computers, the public schools. And the schools were calling us, like, why isn't Jose with us? Why isn't blah, blah, blah? And I'm going, I don't know. So Michelle finds out. Our families are poor. They never had a computer in their house. Mm-hmm. So we had to take all of our computers out of the school and give them to the families. And then we had to have somebody train them to use the computers. Wow. To know how to do it. And then we had to find a donation for Wi-Fi for these families. Because they didn't have it. Mm. So you just take things for granted. Mm-hmm. It's like everybody thinks I live on my cell phone. Oh, I have my landline because of my hearing loss.
I noticed that.
I prefer my landline.
Because it's louder?
Because I can hear better on it. It's more comfortable for me. It's what I know.
Yeah.
And because sometimes I put the cell phone on speaker and then it scares the shit out of me. Yeah. What is your problem?
Wow. I mean, 25 years you've been cultivating this school for. And so eventually it will come. Oh, here it is. I can do it. No limits for deaf children and families. Oh, I love it. When it does open up again, I would have to come. I would love nothing more.
Actually, I may make you an offer.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What's that?
We do a show called Silent No More. Uh-huh. Okay? And our alumni and other people who have a hearing loss tell their stories. And it's a production. We've done it at Carnegie Hall. We've done it at the Kennedy Center. And you might like to share your story. I have a lady, I don't know if you know who Rebecca Alexander is. Mm-mm. They're doing a movie on her life. She has a condition, I forget what it's called. They lose their hearing and their sight. And so she's completely deaf, but she got the 2 cochlear implants, so she's back on sound. Uh-huh. But she can only see like that much. She has no peripheral vision. Uh-huh. And she shares her story. Oh. And she's amazing. Oh. She's a psychotherapist. She's in the gym working out all the time. Yeah. Nothing's stopping her. So the only thing that'll stop us in life is our own attitude.
Yeah. Oh, it would be an absolute honor to come share my story and just to come and witness and just be a part of or play or volunteer or whatever it is. Just come be with the kids. We can play some music and like feel some music. Or,
our kids, we have equipment. We have instruments at the school. Our kids are playing the piano, the guitar. Sounds like crap, but they're doing it.
I want to come sound like crap with your kids.
Okay, you do
that. Wow, Kathy, there is just so much here to digest, and I'm just so grateful for all of your wisdom and for all of your stories and everything that you've shared. You've deeply touched me just by your presence, and what you're creating with No Limit for Deaf Children is so important and so necessary. And I love that you're making this accessible for all manner of families that can't necessarily afford it. And continuing to support children to have not only just a foot up in the world, but also an invitation for them to meet their gift of what it is. And I think that's something that people can really absorb from this podcast episode, is that it may not be that you're deaf or, hard of hearing, but more so a relatability of like, it's what you do with the cards you're dealt and the attitude and the frame we put around it, as opposed to it being our anchor point and it just being something that limits us from being able to experience life. And you're just a living example that you've turned lead into gold, and now you're sharing that gold with so many others, and it's just like ultimate goals.
I'm very blessed. I'm blessed, and I don't take it for granted. I'm just a vessel, a vessel for the universe.
I feel that. And thank you for your work that is necessary to do to be the vessel, to be able to allow that to come through. So, Kathy, thank you so much for joining us today.
Oh, honey, this has been an honor and a privilege to have my own little sister here to share our stories. What a blessing.
Oh, truly.
Now, thank everybody who tuned in.
Yes, definitely check Kathy out. Kathy, if people are watching and they really resonate with you and they want to continue to follow you on your journeys or what you're creating, is there a specific avenue that, like, whether it's your Instagram and people can follow you on Instagram?
Yeah, Instagram. I think it's just Kathy Buckley. I don't do this stuff because I'm lucky if I can figure out solitaire. But my website is kathybuckley.com. And if you go on YouTube, you'll find a bunch of YouTube videos out there, and we'll see where it goes from there.
Amazing. Perfect. Yeah, definitely check her out on Instagram and all of the things. I don't know how active you are on the Instagram world, but you'll at least be able to stay connected and also...
And Facebook.
And Facebook.
Official Kathy Buckley page.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. And definitely check out some of the videos on YouTube. The hilarious Goalcast has blasted you a few times as well.
67 million views.
Yeah.
That must not have been anything good on TV that week.
Yeah. Come on, go give her a little credit. She's hilarious. So definitely check it out, Bluebirds. And again, Kathy, so grateful that you were here today. It's a dream come true for me. So.
Am I allowed to hug you during the pandemic?
Yes, please.
Let's bring it in. I love you, sweetheart. Oh, what a gift. What a gift.
And thank you, Irina. Big shout out to this beautiful queen here that's tearing up in the corner that made this connection happen and trusted in her oracle and her intuition to follow through and make this happen, making dreams come true.
She was amazing through the whole process. I don't like her myself. She was amazing. I love you.
Side note, we all love Irina very much. All right. Well, so much love to you, Bluebirds, and may you receive so much empowerment and support and a beautiful, warm, gushy feeling inside of your heart and your belly while watching this. Sending you so much love and so much appreciation. Until next episode, bless, bless, bless.
Thank you. I just realized I was petting the dog. I don't know if they know that on the camera. I was playing with his ear, and I realized that she's talking to them, and I'm like, oh crap, they're gonna think I'm playing with her. We have now turned the podcast to another venue. Yeah.